Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing a real deep dive into a text that honestly totally reframes how we think about sharing information. Because we all give presentations, right? Whether you're pitching a new idea, teaching a complex concept, or just trying to get your point across in a regular Tuesday meeting. But how often do we actually stop and think about the invisible psychological forces at play the second we fire up our screens? Let's unpack how simply using the right tools can completely transform the way an audience perceives both you and your message. Okay, let's dive into this. Think about it for a second. What is the absolute secret to instant credibility? You know, when you stand up in front of a room or log into a virtual meeting, what's the defining factor that makes people lean in? What makes them trust you and believe that you know exactly what you're talking about? Is it just the words coming out of your mouth? Well, according to our source material, the answer isn't just about your vocal delivery. The secret actually lies in what you're projecting right beside you.
Section 1. The Catalyst, the Power of Technology.
Right off the bat, our source text does something really interesting. It doesn't present technology as a distraction or some kind of crutch. Instead, it's framed as a vital, active assistant in the communication process. I really want us to look closely at the specific phrasing used in the text here. It says participants apply technology to assist them. Notice how deliberate those words are. You aren't just letting a presentation run on autopilot in the background. You are actively applying it. And why? To assist you. The technology is essentially your partner. It's a deliberate tool that you bring into the room to share the heavy lifting of delivering your message.
Section 2. The Arsenal, Tools of the Trade.
So, if technology is the assistant, what exactly are the tools we're supposed to be applying? Well, our text explicitly names Prezi and PowerPoint, right alongside other software. And this brilliantly illustrates the specific avenues the text highlights for us. Think about these two totally distinct paths. On one hand, you've got PowerPoint, the traditional, linear, slide-by-slide standard we all know. On the other hand, there's Prezi, which is known for its dynamic, zooming, non-linear canvas. Even though these platforms operate incredibly differently in how they actually work, our source groups them together for a very specific reason. They're distinct technological paths that ultimately achieve the exact same overarching communicative goal.
Section 3. The Deep Dive, the 3 pillars.
Now that we know the tools, we've got to understand their impact. Because bringing these tools into your communication doesn't just make things look pretty. It actually triggers specific, highly powerful psychological shifts in how the audience perceives you. Here's the roadmap derived straight from our source text. First, the presentation becomes more interesting. Second, the presenter seems well prepared. And third, it gives more credibility. This is a fascinating flow of logic, isn't it? The software is actively rewiring the audience's perception of the content, the effort you put in, and the ultimate trustworthiness of your message. Let's unpack each one of these pillars.
Pillar 1. Capturing audience interest. In the source text we're analyzing, this concept of interest is emphasized so heavily that the author literally says the presentation becomes more interesting twice within just 2 sentences. When a source repeats a phrase like that, we really have to pay attention. Let's define exactly what that means strictly through the lens of our text. By applying software like PowerPoint or Prezi, you are fundamentally breaking the monotony of a purely spoken delivery. The technology makes the delivery inherently more engaging than just speaking alone. That visual element captures the audience's attention, making the raw information significantly more interesting to digest.
Pillar 2, the perception of preparedness. Okay, so we've captured their interest, but now the audience starts making judgments about you, the speaker. I want to slow down our pacing right here to unpack this exact phrase from the text, seems well prepared. That word seems is incredibly revealing. The text doesn't say the software makes you well prepared. I mean, you still have to do the actual work, right? But it says you seem well prepared. The technology is acting as a visual proxy for your effort. When the audience sees structured information, they subconsciously register the time, organization, and care you put into crafting that visual assistant. The software signals to them that you respect their time enough to organize your thoughts clearly.
So, the crucial point is Pillar 3, building presenter credibility.
Everything we've covered, capturing interest, signaling preparation, it's all building up to this final and definitely most powerful pillar mentioned in our explainer text. Based directly on the assertion of our text, we define credibility in this context as the trust and authority granted to you by the audience as a direct result of utilizing this technological assistance. Tools like PowerPoint and Prezi go far beyond just looking nice or putting up bullet points. According to our source, they are active tools for constructing authority. Because you've made the content interesting and because you appear highly prepared, the natural psychological conclusion the audience reaches is that you're highly credible. Now, what's really interesting about this exact quote, "Give more credibility to the audience," is that this is the absolute climax of our explainer. The text frames this as a dynamic transfer. By applying the software, the presentation is elevated to a level where it imparts a profound sense of trust. The audience receives a message that is fundamentally more believable and authoritative, entirely because the communicator chose to apply technology to assist them. It is a complete fundamental transformation of the communication dynamic.
Which brings us to our final thought. The text we've unpacked today leaves us with a pretty profound realization about how we choose to communicate. So the next time you have an idea to share, I want you to ask yourself this. Are you just speaking, relying entirely on your voice alone? Or are you actively utilizing technology to assist you, to make your message infinitely more interesting, to visually prove your preparedness, and to ultimately command the absolute highest level of credibility? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this detailed look at our source material changes the way you approach your very next presentation.